Hello everybody. Recently I've been getting this error message on a 2012 BMW X5 35i. The message would appear intermittently, would not stay on all the time. It'd come on, it would go off, it'd come on, it would go off. So I decided to dig into this and I have fixed the problem. So I thought I'd walk you through the thought process and perhaps this will help you. The first thing I wanted to do was to verify that the batteries were good in all four wheels. The tire pressure monitoring sensors are powered by a lithium battery, and according to this website, this is a BMW TIS technical instruction sheet, I think is what the TIS stands for. It says right here, the service life for the lithium batteries in the wheel electronics is designed for approximately 10 years. This particular car has just short of 97,000 miles, 7.5 years old. I went to my friendly tire dealer. They put their wireless reader up against each valve stem and verified that the batteries in all four wheels were good. Now that I've verified that the batteries are okay in all four tires, I can move on to other components of the system. The next thing I needed to do was to figure out which TPMS system I have. Some of the systems vary in terms of complexity and number of components. I originally thought I had a system that had 4 sensors in each tire plus 4 transmitters in each wheel well, an antenna to receive the information, and a control box. As it turns out, my year BMW had what is known as the Generation 3, which is also sometimes, I believe, referred to as the low-cost system, in that it only has 5 components. There are the 4 wheel sensors, the sensors that are inside each tire, and then there is a single RDC control unit, and that control unit has the integrated reception antenna inside it. You can see it's described here. Electronics front left, front right, rear left, rear right, and then the RDC control unit. I considered myself lucky not to have this version of the tire pressure monitoring system. This version uses, again, 4 sensors in each wheel plus 4 transmitters. So the RDC transmitter in each wheel well. Then there's a control unit, which I understand sometimes is mounted under the instrument panel inside the driver cabin. There's an antenna. As you can see, there are a total of 10 components, 4 sensors, 4 transmitters. That gets you to 8. The RDC control unit, and then the antenna. But that's a prior generation, or at least not the generation that I had on my vehicle. So since I had the low-cost Generation 3 TPMS system, the next thing I needed to do was find the RDC. My system only had 5 components, right? So if 4 of them are the wheel sensors and the batteries check out okay, the likelihood of the problem being with the 5th component, the RDC, was pretty high. And there were a lot of articles out there on the internet that showed lots of issues with that particular device having moisture inside it and corrosion. So the next thing to do is go find it. And thanks to Heat Miser on xoutpost.com, HEATMIZR, who posted these pictures, I thought I'd share them with you. He says here the pic was taken lying underneath the vehicle behind the driver's side rear wheel, and the TPMS sensor is on the forward-facing side of the frame rail, and it's behind the differential and in front of the muffler. And you can see it clearly noted in this picture here. Here's the frame rail. Anyway, here's the muffler. and here's the frame rail. And you can see the sensor here. That's where it is. There's a simple connector here. It's easy to remove. So here's a picture of the RDC. And today's German lesson is Druck, is the German word for pressure. Reifen, I think, is the German word for tire. And controller is controller. So RDC. Don't ask me why it's not RDK, but RDC, tire pressure controller. Here's the BMW part number. The complete part number is a 361-06793-122. So now that I had the part out, I had to make a decision how I was going to proceed. Since I decided that there was a high probability that this part was defective, and I knew a new part was going to be in the neighborhood of at least $300 online, plus I was going to have the additional frustration of either trying to code the new part in myself or have my dealer code it and be frustrated with the time and expense for a 3-minute job or a 5-minute job of coding.
Got nothing to lose. I'm going to open it up, see what's going on, and maybe we can repair some copper traces and get this unit running again. Okay, well, I've got it open. All I did was I patiently used an X-Acto knife and I worked my way around the case here at the seam. I figure I'm going to trash the unit anyway, since this is the only component that I think that might need to be replaced. And if I can get it fixed, I'm pretty sure I can seal it back up with epoxy, or I can reflow the plastic here with a soldering iron and get it sealed. So let's take a look and see what's going on inside. Yep, there's a fair amount of corrosion inside here. And you can see, maybe you can see there's a little bit of greenish blue corrosion there. There's some going on there. If I flip it over, I've got some corrosion going on over here. So I'm going to just try to clean that up, clean up the corrosion. That might explain why the fault that I'm getting is so intermittent. Comes on, goes off, comes on, goes off. And maybe that will solve my problem. Let me move the camera in a little bit closer so you can get a little better view of this. Yeah, so here you go. You can see there's a little bit of corrosion going on right here. And then quite a bit going on right around in here. So I'll take a close look at that with my magnifying glass. If there are any broken traces, or maybe it's just the corrosion that's causing the intermittent operation. Here's another close-up view of what I'm finding. So I've got it all cleaned up right now. You can see right here, got it all pretty cleaned up there. And the other area was down in here. You can see that's all cleared up now. I haven't put any sealer on it or anything yet. I'm going to throw it in the car and see if it works. I cleaned up these two pads. This pad was the dirtiest, and you can see it's completely copper. Now there's no solder on it at all. This one's only has partial amount of solder, and this one has a full amount of solder on it. So you can see not much solder there. I was originally hoping that I was going to have corrosion right here and here, because I thought those would have been very easy to repair. And that's where I saw corrosion on other videos that are online. But My corrosion, as you saw earlier, was concentrated around this particular component. I have no idea what kind of device this is. Also, there was some over here. You can see that this solder connection right over here is bright, shiny silver. This one's substantially duller, but I think there's a good connection there. So I threw this in the car, and it's behaving a little differently now. What's happening is I have the fault light on all the time. It doesn't go away. And originally I thought that's not progress, but perhaps it is progress, because I took the board back out again. I took a really, really close look at it, and this is definitely not going to show up on the camera. But this pad that I cleaned up right here, the one that has no solder on it, it looks like there's a gap between the device and the circuit board. So there's no connection there. So all I'm going to do is put a little flux on this point right here and solder it up. I'll probably touch up this joint as well. All the other joints look okay. I haven't decided whether I'm going to touch up this one or not either. These are really small. You have no idea how small those connections are. They look big on the camera, I'm sure, but they are pretty tiny. But I've got a very fine point, and I'll get my magnifying glass out and see if I can reflow those joints. I might as well tackle this one here while I'm at it if I can. We'll throw it back in the vehicle and see whether that solves my problem.
Here's a close-up view of my repaired connections. Here's the voltage regulator, and I repaired this solder connection, which I think was completely open. And I touched up this connection. I think this was okay, but I just cleaned it up a little bit. On the other side of the board, directly under the voltage regulator, was this. I think it's a capacitor. I didn't really look at it that carefully, but I think it's a capacitor. And you can see here I've cleaned up this connection right here. I think it was okay, but looks a lot better now. And then here is a picture of the RDC, but here's my fine tip soldering iron. I just wanted to give you an idea on how fine a tip it is. It's a pencil point. And actually my solder was a little bit too thick to work with here. I have some pretty fine solder, but not quite fine enough, so I had to be really careful.
Well, believe it or not, repairing those solder joints fixed everything. I threw the RDC back in the car, started the car up, no fault lights, and I've now got about 100 miles on it, and I'm not getting any malfunction indication. So my next step is going to be to protect the electronics. I'm originally going to use either an acrylic coating, something like this, or a silicon resin coating. Unfortunately, both of these cans are quite old and there's no propellant in them anymore, so they won't dispense. So I'll get some conformal coating, protect what I can, probably concentrating on where I saw the corrosion to begin with, and I'll probably put a little bit of protection here because this is a documented area. You can, in some of the pictures I posted, you can see that there's a lot of corrosion here on some of these. I imagine everybody's board's going to be a little different. I will note that my corrosion was here and here, and this is the edge of the RDC that is down. So this is the bottom of the RDC. I was originally going to epoxy it back into place, epoxy the cans back together, and then, or use my soldering iron and reflow the plastic here to reseal this. But I've since decided that I may want to open it up again, but I do need a good seal. So what I'm going to do is probably use my high performance glue stick. So I use high performance glue to reassemble the two plastic pieces, and then I'm going to either come in with a zip tie as you can see here, to zip tie the top and the bottom together, or I'm going to use stainless steel baling wire like this. So that'll hold it together along with the high performance glue, and then if I ever need to open it up again, it won't be too difficult. But it will be sealed really well in the meantime. So there you go. I spent a lot of time putting this video together, so if you found it helpful or useful, I would really appreciate a subscription. If I helped you, please help me. So I think I saved myself somewhere in the neighborhood of at least $300 and maybe as much as $600, depending on how you price what the dealer solution would be. I would imagine the dealer price with labor and programming is going to be a $500 bill, but it's going to be every bit of $400 and up. If you did it yourself, I think you can buy this part for just under $300, but then you need to code it. And majority of the opinions out there say you have to code, although some have documented they've been able to throw in a replacement and not code, and the fault went away. The general consensus is coding is required if you put a new part in. So there you have it. Good luck to you. Thanks for watching.